Donald Trump has always demanded absolute loyalty from everyone around him, guys, yet he rarely offers any in return. Whether you're his business associate, political ally, or even a member of his own cabinet, history shows us that Trump's loyalty is a one-way street, guys. That harsh reality is now hitting Fox News host Pete Hegseth squarely in the face. Following a recent leak scandal, Trump has turned on him in a petty and humiliating fashion, publicly throwing him right under the bus. It's predictable betrayal as well, guys. You've got to understand that. One that perfectly illustrates, Trump's toxic pattern of using people for his own gain before just discarding them at a moment's notice when they become inconvenient. Now, before diving into how Trump publicly embarrassed Hegseth, if I could kindly and quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, hit that subscribe button. It does really go a long way in helping support our work. Now, guys, you've got to understand, in order to understand Trump's publicly how he embarrassed Hegseth, it's important you take into account the broader context. This all began with reports from the Pentagon a while back, where Hegseth launched yet another baseless attack on the press, in an attempt to stifle criticism and deflect blame for ongoing failures in leadership and accountability. Journalists like Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace have already, dissected this saga in detail, exposing how Trump and his loyalists worked tirelessly to rewrite the narrative and silence dissent. Now, as Trump betrays even one of his loudest defenders, the hypocrisy could not be clearer, guys. Take a look at this.
Since we've been on the air, dozens of news outlets covering the Defense Department have left the Pentagon after refusing to agree to and sign the Trump administration's new demands that significantly curb access to and the ability to report on and cover that building, the Pentagon, and the men and women of the military. The people refusing to sign include Fox News, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's former place of work. A Pentagon reporter from the AFP posted this photo of journalists on the steps of the Pentagon after handing in their badges that gave them access to the building. A correspondent from Reuters tweeted this, quote, "The physical Pentagon bureaus of Reuters and virtually every other news organization are now officially closed. But we will continue to cover the Pentagon fairly and aggressively from outside the building, holding the U.S. military accountable." We're back with Rachel. I know you got everyone's attention, the world's attention, with your open a week ago Monday about how authoritarianism is here. It's not on the horizon. It's not something theoretical that you and I both covered in the months leading up to the election. It's not a question before the voters. It's what they have ushered in with the reelection of Donald Trump. And this is, chapter one, shutting out the free press, shutting out access to the truth about the military.
Yeah, but this is also a really important chapter in what it means to stand up to authoritarianism. Nicole, we have talked about the fact that, the people have been brave. Individual Americans, the people who you're going to see out this Saturday at the No Kings protests, the people who you've seen in every state of the country almost every day of the week taking some act of protest against Trump, those folks have been brave and principled and unafraid. The cowardice that we have seen has been from institutions, and that includes media organizations and news organizations, where we've seen executives over and over and over again make cowardly and craven decisions to try to appease Trump or please him in some way in the hopes that maybe that earns you another day of being allowed to operate at his pleasure. It's just been disgusting what we've seen from the most important and valuable corporations in this country and law firms and universities and all the rest of it. In this case, we've got all of those Pentagon reporters with their news organizations behind them standing up and saying, no, we are not stenographers. We are not going to work under strictures where we are only allowed to write down what you tell us we can write down. That's not journalism, and we're not going to do it under those terms. We'll do it some other way. We'll give up these bureaus, these physical bureaus inside the Pentagon, sure, and that is a compromise, absolutely. We will find other ways to do this work, because you keeping us here while we only write what you want and approve us of saying would have us working here as your lackeys rather than working as journalists, and we're journalists.
Pete Hegseth has been clearly desperate in trying to blur the lines between two very different things: a legitimate journalism and his own reckless behavior. After reports emerged, that from the Pentagon, that was that where Hegseth's aides and other military officials allegedly described, his poor performance, he attempted to equate those internal leaks with his own irresponsible act of sharing sensitive war plans over text. Remember that, guys, yeah? It's a weak and transparent attempt to paint himself as the victim, portraying investigative journalists as somehow endangering national security simply because they're exposing his own incompetence. The truth of the matter is, however, it's painfully clear that it isn't the reporters who are a threat, guys. It's Hegseth's own incompetence, arrogance, and loose lips that pose the real risk. His inability to lead effectively, his carelessness, handling of information, and even his bizarre attempts to project strength through fake pull-up stunts have turned him into a national embarrassment, guys. Now, in a fit of paranoia and wounded pride, you could say, Hegseth has declared war on the press as well, especially against anyone daring to criticize him. And what does Donald Trump do? In response, true to his form, instead of defending his loyal follower, Trump hands special press credentials to one of Hegseth's harshest critics, someone who openly mocks him. It's a classic Trump move, turning on his own allies for the sake of humiliation and dominance, proving once again that loyalty to Trump is a one-way ticket to public betrayal. Laura Loomer gets Pentagon press credentials despite her recent attacks on Hegseth. Laura Loomer is the newest member of the Pentagon Press Corps, according to a report by the Washington Post. The 32-year-old far-right activist, conspiracy theorist, and self-proclaimed proud Islamophobe has been a staunch ally of President Donald Trump, at times clashing with others in the president's inner circle. In a series of social media posts last month, Loomer took several swipes at Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, apparently furious over the approval of a training facility for Qatari Air Force pilots in Idaho, saying that she was so incensed over the decision to give terror financing Muslims from Qatar a military base on US soil so they can murder Americans, that she planned to sit out the 2026 midterm elections. The digital bomb she lobbed at Hegseth didn't keep her from getting a Pentagon press pass, according to the Post Scott Nova and Drew Harwell, who reported Monday that Loomer was the latest producer to be credentialed by the Defense Department. Citing a person familiar with the matter, the Post reported that Loomer was joining a new cohort of right-wing media that have agreed to the Pentagon's new press policy. The majority of the Pentagon press corps turned in their badges in October rather than comply with the new DoD policy that was loudly criticized by both the left and the right as threats to the freedom of the press. Those that remained are MAGA-allied media outlets along with several foreign outlets. Loomer previously applied for a White House press pass, voicing frustration when she wasn't granted one despite her repeated requests and other MAGA influencers with fewer followers getting credentialed. It's not clear what made the difference with the Pentagon press pass versus the White House press pass that had eluded her grasp before. If anything, Loomer has been more critical of Hegseth and other DoD officials in recent months. Pete Hegseth's tenure at the Pentagon has been defined more by vanity than by any meaningful leadership. His accomplishments, guys, as they were, if one can even call them that, include setting up a personal makeup studio, producing cringeworthy workout videos with RFK Jr., and launching relentless attacks on the free press. That's his accomplishments. And now, in a twist of humiliation that could only happen in Trump's orbit, Hegseth finds himself forced to grant press credentials to one of his loudest critics, reportedly because Donald Trump favors her. While gossip has swirled around Trump's questionable personal relationships, the real issue here is not who he's causing up to, guys. It's how his petty favoritism undermines professionalism and national integrity. Trump's decision to empower someone who openly mocks Hegseth is just another example of his instinct to sow chaos and humiliation among his own allies. The man who demands blind loyalty all the time has once again proven that he gives none in return, and no one. Meanwhile, Laura Loomer, a far-right, provocateur, known more for her stunts than for serious journalism, now just gets the privilege of humiliating Hegseth from inside the Pentagon. It's a fitting reflection of the circus that Trump's movement has become. A place where, the media attacks, ego and conspiracy take precedence over competence, ethics and actual governance. Even more absurdly, major news networks only began paying attention once Fox News distanced itself from the debacle. As is usual, mainstream media coverage lags behind reality, guys, only waking up when, right-wing media decides the story is worth acknowledging. But make no mistake, guys, this episode isn't about the press or even Hegseth's wounded pride. It's about the ongoing decay of integrity in Trump's political sphere, where humiliation is a weapon. Loyalty is disposable and leadership is replaced by vanity and self-promotion.
Well, you are not alone tonight in this country if you disapprove of Donald Trump's presidency. A new poll finds the highest disapproval number that Donald Trump has ever had. If you disapprove of the job Donald Trump is doing as president, you are joined by 63% of Americans in that disapproval. That is 1 percentage point higher than the disapproval Donald Trump achieved in the same poll in the second week of January 2021 after he told a Trump-supporting mob to go to the Capitol and fight like hell. More Americans disapprove of Donald Trump tonight than they did after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And you are not alone tonight if you disapprove of Donald Trump's handling of the government shutdown. You are part of the 61% majority who disapprove of Donald Trump's handling of the government shutdown. You are not alone tonight if you blame Donald Trump for worsening economic conditions. 61% blame Donald Trump's policies for worsening economic conditions. You are not alone tonight in this country if you think the country is moving in the wrong direction. According to a new ABC News poll, 2/3 of the country believes that. 67% say the country is moving in the wrong direction. ABC News notes majorities of Americans in urban, suburban, and rural areas say the country is moving in the wrong direction, as well as those with varying levels of education and income. That is a powerful polling result in a country that usually has significant differences between urban, suburban, and rural areas, and significant differences in polling among varying levels of education and income. But majorities of Americans in all of those categories believe the country is moving in the wrong direction. So you are not alone, no matter where you live in this country, if you think Donald Trump is moving the country in the wrong direction. In that same ABC News poll, 64% of Americans say Trump is going too far in trying to expand the power of the presidency. In 288 days in the presidency this time, Donald Trump has managed to unify the country in disapproval of him.
Donald Trump's political empire is unraveling before our eyes, guys, and the collapse couldn't be more deserved. He deserves 100% of it. His influence, once treated like an untouchable force, is now just in free fall. It's weighed down by scandal and incompetence and the endless betrayal he's inflicted on those foolish enough to, trust him. It's a stunning downfall, guys, and frankly, a long overdue downfall, reckoning for a man who's built his career simply on lies, bullying, and self-interest. As his grip on power continues to crumble, it's crucial for people to stay informed, stay vocal, and refuse to be silenced, whether it's by Trump himself, his enablers, or his, people like Pete Hegseth, to be simple. The far right truth, the fight for truth, guys, it only grows stronger as Trump's hollow empire caves in. And as always, I appreciate you guys staying with me till the end. Please hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, stay connected, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.